Yes, me too. So
he's
COVID is going to be a memory for him.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Oh yeah, it went right over his head. He had no idea. I was like, I was crazy crying into my pillow at night. He had no idea.
Makes the inside better.
That's good. That's good. So he will be able to determine or learn about vacations and learn about working hard and taking time off and that freedom that comes along with it.
Yeah. And just being able to show him things without having to be like, we don't have time to go show him Colorado, or we don't have time to show him New Mexico, because we've both got to get a week off work at the same time, and we have to work on whatever, everything else. There's just so, I think that flexibility of knowing that like we can give my son whatever we want to give him, and we can give ourselves whatever we do too. I mean, like, so this February, I was like nuts after the COVID winter. I mean, like, I was like flat out like, I have to leave this state, because Southern Illinois is like very cold and gray all winter. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And so we just like, we left my son with my parents, and we just went to Florida for like,
I am the Chief Creative Officer at Elevated Oats.
5 days, I think.
Served in the Army.
Then just like fled to Florida. And I needed it. It was so needed. I don't know if we could have both gotten the time off at the same time at that time of year and worked it out with bosses and coworkers and stuff. But it was really like, it was truly a mental health.
Just less than 2 years before he retires.
After being through a winter where we were
and so again, thank you for both your service too.
It's about what we can give our son. It's also about what we can give ourselves.
We started
that's
this,
a good point too.
The last time that
exactly,
we talked,
because it's important to fuel yourself
and I know that
for work and also the personal piece too.
About some of the subjects we talked about,
sure.
but I really wanted to.
So what drew you to New Mexico?
And what's interesting?
That's quite a difference from Illinois.
For a lot of folks that are
in business with everybody laughs when I say this.
You guys have a couple of
the very first time that we went to New Mexico. The reason we kept going back is because if you go to New Mexico, you keep going back because it's beautiful and it's eclectic and it's wonderful. But the whole reason that we even went in the first place was because we had watched Breaking Bad, and there were some episodes of Breaking Bad that had really beautiful scenery.
I like how you put that.
And this was before, like before kid or anything, and we could kind of like, when we took vacations, we could go anywhere. And so it was so wide open that we were like, well, we've been to the ocean, we've been to Colorado, like, what do we do next? And we were like, oh, look at this beautiful scenery on Breaking Bad. So we went to New Mexico and we just loved it. And it was like it spoke to both of us. And so we just kept, so we went back the next year. And then pretty soon we got to the point where like we were sad when we would come home. But we didn't want to move there because all of our family and friends are here, and our community is super important to us.
Into Asana. I use it
so
almost like a calendar.
And at that point, I was really like,
it's kind of both of those
sad every time we had to come back, and I wanted to be able to access New Mexico whenever I want, so that it won't feel like, oh, there's this beautiful place that is sort of out of reach, like this dream that you get to be treated to once a year or whatever. Like I wanted.
So it's
I wanted to be able to get back there when I wanted to.
The time too,
and there's also a little bit of it, like, so my paternal grandmother was really all about the West, and they would have retired out West if it wasn't for all her grandkids being in Illinois.
It feels almost like it's another
and I feel her out there. She had a big impact on my life, and New Mexico was like one of the places that I thought, like, I knew that she had gone there. She used to vacation there a long time ago. And it just, I don't know, it just really spoke to me for a lot of different reasons.
That's fantastic. And then now you're going to be able to share that with your son as well.
In this,
that's great. And so you have plans
like,
to
just knowing,
do you think that you'll be able
do it the right way
to
the
go
first
a little bit
time,
more often
so you don't
now?
have to go back and
we're actually hopefully going to go again sometime somewhat soonish, before the end of the year.
Taking
at some
chances,
point,
always
we're
moving
looking
forward,
into
like no matter
looking
what,
into going and kind of getting back on the horse of figuring out what do we need to do to get the tiny home built. Some of those things are easier to do when you're actually there.
During your service time,
totally.
And how did that look together?
some of that rolling, or at
I
least
wouldn't
figure
make it
out
till
what
the
the next
story.
steps would be.
Yeah, but
I
you're
was
right. It
late
is
to
nice to
foyer
have
and
that
we,
freedom
Lacey was
of
in
being
Iraq
able
already, and you
to
had been there for
decide to
like
go someplace
9
for a
or
little
10
while
months
and then
already
come back
when
Yeah,
I
and
got
go
there.
again if you need to,
We got extended is
because
what it
you
was.
have the flexibility
And so
in
she
your
wouldn't have
business and your
come
schedule.
normally, but we went from
And
12
to have a
months to
home
being there
there,
for
you
15.
know,
And
like
so when we found out we
have
had
the
long
tiny
enough for
house
her
was
to
such
be
an
able to
integral
come
part of it, because
and
we're
get
like, then
her
we
first,
always know that we have
CTO
a place.
rating.
Which
You know,
didn't even
like that
happen
place
because
will
I was
always
actually
be
only
open
there
to
5
us.
months, and you need 6
Yeah,
months.
and it'll
But it was
and you
good.
can
It
make
was
it
good
part
to
of
kind
you
of go
versus
and
just showing
become
up
part
someplace in a
of the
motel room and
team,
enjoying
not
it for a little
necessarily
while
like
and then
being
coming back, and
in the
you're
unit,
not
and
able
then
to, you don't
your
have
whole
that
company is there,
internal
like having
connection
this
so
experience
much.
together.
Yeah,
And
that's
if they
exactly
come
right.
back, it's like, okay,
That's
yeah, now
wonderful.
I'm new.
So what
But
does
it was
so
nice
what
to
does
kind
your
of go
business?
there
Where do you see your
and
this ridiculous
get
interview
into
questions?
what
Where do you
the
see yourself
job
in 5
was,
years?
meet
But
the
you know,
people.
where do you
Yeah,
where do
that's where
you
Lacey and I met. We're both
so what's your
entrepreneurs and
current
In Iraq.
typical
fast
client, I
friends.
guess?
Yeah, in Iraq.
Where do you
Yeah.
where do you see your business? For I can't figure out a better way to ask a
Yeah.
question.
And so
yeah,
once you,
no,
once you
that's
both came back, did you
like
stay
when you're talking to
connected?
somebody in a completely different
Or,
industry, you almost don't know
would-
like what
after you were
questions to
done with the
ask about
service, or
how
how did that work?
the career trajectory
How long were you
progresses.
in
So I get
Hawaii
that.
until you left?
So my current, most of my, a lot of my
We went
clients right
on
now
the second
are
deployment. So we ended
universities,
up-
which I
it was
imagine
2
will
years
probably
into our
always be the
second
case, just
deployment,
because
we
that's a
deployed
niche I'm
again
really,
for-
really good at.
Ended up being 10 months instead of 12.
I work with some small business
We went
owners.
to the same place. Cops biker in
I did
Iraq.
not foresee this, but I
then
have ended up
shortly
working with a lot of
after,
software companies
we
that
got
serve
back,
people who are in
I ended up
industries that I have
getting
expertise
pregnant
in.
and
So
getting
like,
out of the
Oh.
military.
I'm not,
So it was
I don't
only
have any
like
expertise
9
in
months, I
software
think.
development per
So we
se,
had a good
but it turns out that I'm really
3-4
good
years,
at
I think,
Yeah.
working
writing for
together.
people when they have to, like,
Really too, like,
I've made this
I don't
software
even
and
know.
now I
There was
want
one
someone
point
to
in time
tell
where
my
there were
potential
13
clients
females in the
why this
company, but what
software
was
would
the
help their
lowest?
business. Turns out that I'm really good
I
at
think it was
writing
only
that
like
type
11.
of stuff.
Wow.
So,
So
so I've
we
been
didn't really
I've been
have a lot
doing
of
that
women
in the
to
mental health
connect
sector.
with
Actually, there's a
either.
lot of places
And then
that
you're not
make
even supposed to
software
connect
that
with certain
helps
people
mental health
once you hit certain
practitioners run
rates.
their
So really,
practice.
that number is like
So
dwindled.
I'm hoping
Anyways.
to grow my presence in like, so as far as where I want to see myself in 5 years, I'm hoping to
but I
grow
think
myself,
that kind of comes with
continue to grow in the
military,
mental
like,
health
you
sector.
don't have, you're not with your family. You're in a new place. You're
A lot of times
creating
for a
these bonds
freelancer,
with
expanding your
people.
career is about what niche you want to get into or you dream to get into. I've done a
having
little
fun
bit of
together,
travel writing
you know,
before,
like
and so now that
working, and then
COVID
I
is
remember
settling
some of the
down and
parties that we
people
would
are
go
able to
to
safely
and
travel
things we would do,
again.
just
In 5 years,
being
I would
kids.
really, I envision
Yeah.
travel
It
It was many
being
years
a
ago,
big
many years
part
ago, because
of
Those
what
things
I
that
write
you don't talk
about.
about anymore, right?
And I actually have a very specific
You can
vision
only
of
tell
that
your kids
because
when they're much
I
older.
want to write about travel within the US. So
And so once you
most
got
travel
go
things are
ahead,
based
Lacey, go ahead.
towards like global
Once
travel, which is
you-
wonderful. And there are many
Your
people
turn.
for whom that is their
once we
thing.
got out of like I got out of the
I really
military,
want to
and then
specialize
my
in
husband was
writing
still
about
in. He
travel within
PCS'd,
the
which is moving
US.
to
So
Alabama.
I hope
and
that
so we were
that will
separated
be
from
like
there.
added to my
And I
client
think
repertoire.
I forget what year you got out, Megan.
You know, I would.
I got out in
A
2012.
lot of freelancers get to
Okay,
the
so
point
it
where they
was
outsource
shortly-
to
it was
other
like a year after I
freelancers.
got out
I'm
that you got
deciding
out.
if that's
And so
Really?
I
a
remember
goal
she
that I
had come
want.
to
Yeah,
visit me
yeah,
in
you'd be
wow.
surprised. A lot of
when
people,
my
that
son
once you
was
get up to a
born.
certain level of success,
And then when she got out,
you
she
don't
moved
want
to
to turn work
California. We
down,
were
but
in
it's getting to be
contact
more than you
for
can
that-
handle.
a
So
good-
you end
good
up,
while,
you know,
but I ended up
outsourcing
getting
to
back
people
into
who are like
religion.
Sharing with
earlier.
others.
And it was right around
Yeah,
then, I
exactly,
think, that
sharing
we
with
really kind of
others.
separated for like 4 or 5
So
years.
I'm still deciding if
before
that's
we
a
had, like,
direction
phone
that I want to
call.
go, or if I want to keep being a one-woman
And it was
show.
kind of like a phone call, like,
But
"Hey,
for
do you
sure,
remember
I
this
hope
guy's
in
wife's
5
name?"
years that I have helped
Yeah.
other
Figure it
freelancers
out.
as much as other freelancers have
Isn't it
helped
funny
me.
how
Like,
little
I hope that
conversations
I've
like
found
that
lots of ways
turn
to give
into
back.
so many big
That's
things, but you've got to
fantastic.
make that
You know, it's kind of
initial
interesting
contact of
just listening to
a
your story and where you
conversation.
started and where you are now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some of
And it
the
never felt
what
like
I
we,
really
like,
liked a
lost
couple of times you said,
anything
I didn't know that
in
I'd be
it,
good
too,
at that,
once we
or
came
wow,
back
I am good at
together.
that. You know,
Yeah.
It's
how
so
often
interesting
are
too, because it
we
led into like I
pigeonholed
wanted
into
a
you're doing a job for something and that's your job description, and there's not an opportunity to do something else within the company without changing jobs.
Granola, how did that
And
happen?
I think that
That was the shift.
Miss
I left a
opportunity
I left a
to grow.
relationship, This kind
Yes. And, you know, I
catalyst, this
became
huge
really aware of
change. I was
that
in my dad's
actually after I
basement.
transitioned
Lacey
from
and I, we
journalism
reconnected
into
about, like,
working for a
"Hey, I need
university,
some
because I worked for a
labels and a
small
logo," and I'm
university
like,
where
"I can't do this.
there was a lot of
And then healing too from
it was a small university
traumas
that
and
didn't have the
what,
budget for a
you know, you're
huge
changing your
staff,
life.
and so everyone on staff
separating
ended
yourself
up
from this
holding a
whole
lot of
identity that you
responsibility.
created
And
over
I
years,
realized that, like, oh my
and you're
gosh, it's
choosing
so
to put
interesting
your
and
full self out there and
fascinating
put
to be
yourself
in an
on the line, and
environment where if
it
I
was a
want to
lot.
do something
And
additional or
I
want to
think
try
we both
something
really
out,
helped each
people are
other
like, oh, okay, we need help with
to
that.
transform into better people.
So that's
Is
something
that when
that
you
you
moved to
can't
Alaska,
find at a lot of
Megan?
workplaces,
That was
though.
when
I mean,
moved
that
to
was
Alaska,
kind of
yeah.
the
And do you think
particulars
that the
of the company that I
location,
worked for, and
being
the
in
fact that I was in
Alaska,
a
helped the
creative
healing
role
process?
in a school that
I
had
would
other
say
creative
so.
departments,
Yes,
and
it's
yeah,
very
like
small,
other
and
jobs that I
everybody is
had, and
really
even when I
nice
was
here.
teaching, it was
It's
like,
just the
you know,
most
I'm doing
beautiful
one
things to
thing.
see. Like anywhere you
So
go,
for
it is.
for most of my
magical.
life,
It's been
yeah,
magical.
She says small,
had,
but it's
hadn't
not
really
small,
had the
not compared
opportunity to
Rural
explore,
North Carolina, where I am, but
and ended
I
up
get what she
exploring,
means.
like, for instance, the software venue as a freelancer,
And so
just because by
kind of
chance
interesting that
somebody else I know who
the
owns her own
outside portion,
business
right?
needed some
And
writing help
we
with
talk
that
about
type
how
of
the outside
client.
makes the inside
And I was
better,
doing it like
and
just
through
for
that
money,
healing
and then I was
process.
like,
And
oh,
so
well,
whether
I'm
you're
really
in
good. Maybe
Alaska
I'll keep doing this type of
or
work
North Carolina,
just because it's
and
interesting,
going through
you know,
what you
like,
both went through the
never saw
servicing and
myself writing about
transitioning
software,
out, do
but
you think
here
that
we
that was a
are.
big
It gives us
aspect of
I noticed
your
it too, going from,
healing or continuing
you know,
to
the
grow
employee
process?
to the business owner, or
Yeah,
how much I've changed, and or my business has changed, or
Yeah,
we
I
can,
certainly do.
it gives
I
the
mean,
permission to evolve. And it'll be
have been
interesting
going
to
through
see,
since I
you
got
know,
out of the military
what the next few
2016 for the
years
second time.
looks like,
I've been going
and
through what I feel
what
like
kind
is
of things
very
that you might be
a lot
writing
of
about that you would
isolation.
never
You know,
envision
the
that
military provides
would
this,
be
like, you know, brother and
something that would
sisterhood,
be
and then
a
when you
subject
leave
matter
and you
that
get out, and
would
I don't
really
know anybody
resonate with
because
you.
I'm a military spouse.
You really never know what's around the next
Those
corner. You
things
really
start
don't.
to take a turn.
Wow, it's been so wonderful talking with you. Is there
So,
anything
you know,
else
when
that,
Megan
did we
and
cover
I
everything? I
reconnected,
think
it
we could
was
probably do this forever.
a lot of healing. You know, it was just, it was that
Anything you'd like to
community
add?
again. And, you know, she's really taught me that you can build that community
Really, other than
yourself.
that,
You don't have to wait
I mean, my
around for
best
it to
piece of
come to
advice
find
to
you.
people who are kind of wanting to
And I would
strike out
also
on their
think it would
own is
also
that
help
networking is
because you
everything,
guys have
and
such a
LinkedIn like
deep
should be your
connection
new
and so
home.
many
And like
commonalities
search
that
for groups
there's a lot of
of
explaining that you don't have to
people
do.
that share, like people who
One
are further along in
understands
your
where the other
desired
one's
career
at.
track. Like,
We
find
speak
those
each
groups
other's
of
language,
people
and I
and
think
learn
we
from them,
both
because
Oh,
that's
it-
like
further along,
at
that's
in our
interesting. I never
healing
really thought about
process
that.
and the things that we're going
Mhm.
through.
99%
and being
of
there
what
and
I
being
have been able to
supportive and
figure
holding
out how to
space and,
do
like really
successfully
being a great
has
friend
been
to the
because
other
I was
person,
part of groups
you know,
of
and then
freelancers
we
that have been
just
doing this longer than I
happen to
have.
also
Mm.
work together.
Did
so
you
building
ever,
that bond and
that's a
relationship,
brave
like,
move.
helps us with
Did you think about
communicating
that?
better or understanding each other's boundaries or
I,
where
for
we're
me,
at
I think
or
it would be,
how things are
so,
affecting
so
us.
being new, right,
And
as
there's
a
always
new
that challenge of
freelancer,
being in business and
putting
being
your
friends
hand
or
up in a
being friends
group
in
of
business,
people
right?
that are
And-
experienced, that takes a lot of
Lacey,
guts.
huh?
So you have
I
to find
think
the
I put
right
Megan through
group,
so
because I
much
happen
this
to
year.
find a group that is really about like helping other people,
I have,
you know, really
I
about
have definitely
collaboration,
some
and they're
commitment
happy to
issues.
see new people.
And
Yeah,
so
if I
I've been
hadn't
like,
been
I
able
don't
to
want to do
find a
this. I
group
do
that
want to do
already
this. I don't want to do
had
this. I do want
that
to do this.
sort
I
of
don't know if I can do this.
mindset in place,
But she's
that would have
really
just been, you know,
allowed
just
me
a lot
that
of
space
grit.
to,
You know, I mean, sometimes you have to do things that
figure
are
out what
uncomfortable
resonates
too.
with me.
That's
But
fantastic.
yeah,
And,
that
and
was,
so,
that ended up
and
working
so
out really well
how
for me.
Granola,
That's
so
fantastic.
you,
Thank
Megan,
you.
you said that
Thanks
you
for
were
that. And
transitioning
so
from
how would
health
people get in touch
coaching,
with you? We'll put some contact
to,
information in the
and you
show
ended
notes
up with
too, but
Granola. How did
how do we
how
find
did you
you?
stop at Granola, or what
Yeah,
really
so
brought you to that?
I am on LinkedIn,
I had this
Rachel Heston
thought.
Davis,
I
and
wanted to
I am
help
at
people be healthier.
rachelhestondavis.com.
Ultimately, I'm like, I want
And
you to
I
just
believe you're going
take
to have
better
my,
care of yourself. Like,
you're probably going to put my
think about what
email
you're putting in your
contact
body.
in, right? I mean, I
And
check
was
my
like,
email all
well,
the
I can
time,
do
so
like a
that's
restaurant or
one of the best
cafe
ways to
because
get a
I
hold
really
of me,
like
honestly.
food. And
Yeah, we'll
working
definitely
out
put your
is
email
one
in the show
thing,
notes, as well
like
as
telling
your
someone, yeah, you can do
website
all these
and
things, but
LinkedIn
really
profile.
food,
And
like,
is there
that's
any
so
last
important.
thought that
You
you'd
can't
like
just
to
like
leave
eat junk
everybody
and then
with?
work out for an hour and think
I
that
didn't
that's
prep you for that one.
counteracting back.
No, that's okay. Yeah, just I
And then at
hope
cafe, I
that
was like, well, I don't really feel like I like
hope
eating
that I
with
can
people.
help
I don't
somebody else
like
think
just
through
cooking for someone.
what they need to think
And I
about
was
before
like,
they
I
do
have
this,
this
because it's a
awesome,
really great
this
move
awesome
if you
granola.
can,
I just happen to have this awesome recipe. And I'm like, this
be
is so easy to
self-employed.
make. This
It's
is
really great.
would be a great thing to
Thanks so
spread
much
to people.
for your time today, Rachel. It's been a pleasure.
I didn't even
Thank you
think
for
about
having me. It's
what
been
it
great
really
to be
could
here.
be or envision what it actually could lead to. It was just like, this is something that I can share with more people. And then it just kind of kept going from there. And so for us, it's so much more than just the granola. Like, we spread this message of mental awareness. We do group hikes. Like, Lacey's actually going to do one in North Carolina this weekend, and I'm doing one here in Alaska, to promote getting outside and moving your body, because that affects your mental everything, just like the food that we eat.
That's fantastic. And so we've got a little background noise. There it goes. Okay. So you're both doing hikes. Is this something new that you've created, or you've been doing this for a while?
Megan's been doing this for a few months in Alaska, and literally just today we decided to add one here in North Carolina on the same day. And, I don't have a huge community at my disposal, but I do have the military community still, because my husband's a recruiter. So we're like getting those people involved. And it's really cool to see already people messaging me like, hey, are you going to do this again? Because it was short notice, because they are interested. So it's cool.
That's fantastic. And there's some really great Facebook pages for, even specifically for women in hiking, that there's got to be some, because you're so close to the AT, there's got to be some in your area. I know that there are, that might be a really great resource too, that
Totally.
just to connect and create a community or support a community that's already there.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, we do a lot of sharing in those Facebook groups when we do have these kind of hikes coming up. Yes, definitely a great resource.
And that's also a great resource for getting your granola out as well.
Yeah, and we're not like pushy salesy with the granola. So it's just like, we want it to speak for itself. Like, just try it kind of thing.
So let's talk granola a little bit, and let's talk about business in Alaska, right? So it's got to be different creating a business in Alaska than it is the lower 48, right?
I don't know.
Well, logistically, yes.
Yeah, logistically, we do have a lot of different challenges. There's interesting too, because the state is so small, it's not a lot of people. You become well known really fast, and like, you get into the places that are with your target audience really fast. So now our goals are kind of to move outside of the state, which is going to be a different challenge, like getting things in. Now we got to get things out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you started with one flavor, correct? Or did you start with multiples?
I actually started with 4.
Okay.
We had an idea, like, one recipe was the whole idea, and then it was like, well, you can't just have one. And my dad was like, I would love a chocolate granola. I was like, all right, let's do something. So you do a little Pinteresting and then try something out. Originally it was called Dark and Salty. It is so amazing. Now it's called Salted Cocoa Crunch. It's our crunchiest granola, and has such a low amount of sugar in it. Like 9 ingredients, I think. It's a great snack, just a great snack. And then it was like, well, if we can do this other one with bananas, like having this wet base, like, we should be able to do it with something else. Like, I'm pretty sure that we can use beets. And then it was like thinking of this beet recipe and making this really beautiful pink granola that has such a unique flavor. I can't even describe it. It's like earthy and savory, but then the tang from the cranberries, it's delicious. And then it was just kind of like, well, we should be able to do this with something else. Let's try carrots. And then it's just kind of kept going like that. We just started doing test flavors, and our last one, we used blueberries and lemon juice and colored it with a tea. Like,
oh, wow.
Getting to the point now to where we can actually have fun and be creative with it, and then share that with our community and our base too.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that. I love the creativeness, and I'm a huge fan of beets in all kinds of food. And I love the fact that you kind of jumped the shark and put a vegetable in your breakfast, because
it's the second ingredient.
Yeah,
it's not a little bit. We put a lot in there.
And in the colors are just phenomenal. There's nothing like a good fuchsia beet color.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, and that's the other part. It's fun. And when you can have fun doing something totally different, and honestly, if you don't take it so seriously, right? And you're able to step back and have a good time with it. And I see that you do some quick videos on the website too, Megan, right?
Yeah, we do like little TikToks or recipes, and also outdoor things, trying to promote that idea, get that thought going in your head.
And so you're currently selling on shelves in Alaska, yes?
Yes.
But people can order granola outside of Alaska too, correct? You can
Totally.
ship to the lower 48.
Yes.
And so what's your target market for in stores right now? Where do you have your product?
Oh,
Go ahead, dear.
well, we have our product right now. We have our product in over 40 like locations. We have Kalani Brothers, which is a well-known coffee joint in Alaska. They're in 17 locations alone. And I guess you could count us as being in Seattle because that's where Kalani is too. And then a lot of what we have is the small independent like retailers in Alaska, but we're also in New Sagaya and Natural Pantry.
Yeah, those are our natural grocers here in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're getting into the largest chain here too, Three Bears. It's a local grocery chain.
Wow.
We just became a new vendor for them, so we're just waiting for the order and gonna pack a lot of boxes.
That's fantastic. So when did you start Elevated Oats?
The whole thing was kind of conceived in August 2019, and then got the lease on the factory January 1st, 2020. So it just kind of happened so fast, and like kept running with it so fast. And we were selling wholesale and online by April of 2020, right?
So really COVID.
Yeah. We didn't know
that's
COVID was going
amazing.
to happen, and then it happened.
Yeah.
And so did that affect you at all?
Yeah. I think it made us build it made us build a factory. Really, it's like she was doing the cottage food before that, and COVID kind of hit, and then the shows were being canceled. So it's like, how do you keep moving forward? You just go wholesale. You're like, okay, fine, we'll build a factory. And so we kind of focused
store shelves.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's the process? So you started as a cottage industry or a cottage license, right? And then, so then if you go wholesale, is that still considered cottage, or how does that work?
You have to have you have to be manufacturing in a DEC approved kitchen, which is through the state of Alaska or whatever state you're in. And so we filed paperwork, have a whole floor plan with all of our stuff. We have recipes sent in. We have our packaging process. So all the things that we have to go through to create it. Nutrition labels, I think, are not required unless you're selling over 100,000 units in a year. But we still put nutrition labels on our stuff because immediately too, that was something that people really wanted. Like people love nutrition labels. It's easier to read. Same thing with gluten-free. Gluten-free is really big right now. Yeah. And then you have your space. Now, if you are a person that's new trying to get into it, because I will say for us, getting that factory space and then working on it the way that we have, it's been a big investment. We have spent a lot in overhead continuing to have this space and build out our systems and change our packaging, like figure out the market, test everything, versus say getting a co-packer and paying higher prices to have your product, but not paying that overhead, or renting a space in a factory. Like we have a girl that rents the kitchen like every few hours a week, and she makes jams, and she's selling wholesale now. And she's like, oh, I just got a new wholesale account. And it's like, heck yeah, girl, you get it. And so she's expanding her business, which is great for us because then she comes in, she cooks a little bit more hours. But at some point, depending on how you build your business, you're going to have that operation more at capacity, which is ultimately our goal too.
Well, that's fantastic that you're able to help elevate others.
Yeah. And then it helps us with
Yeah.
maintaining our
overhead,
situation
yes.
too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know that sometimes it's very difficult to find kitchen areas that are plug and play approved for people
Totally.
that are producing on a smaller level.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you had going from small to building your own factory? Oh, we don't have enough time for that.
Some of the challenges, I think it's really come down to being a leader, like learning how to delegate and how to kind of get people working in the right zones, knowing what moves to make next. Oh my gosh, that's like the most challenging thing. I feel like always questioning, like, is this going to be the right thing? I don't know. Let's just try something. Yeah. What do you got, Lacey?
Yeah, I actually think that's a really good one right there, because like in the military, they definitely teach us like make a decision. Any decision is better than no decision. And that's like really helped, I think, with the entrepreneurial journey, because a lot of people say, you know, air traffic control is like, oh, it's one of the most stressful jobs. I think entrepreneur needs to be hired. No one prepared me for this.
It's like falling forward, right? You have to do an action, because otherwise you have inaction. But if you're falling, at least you're falling forward and doing something, and you're going to learn from that too.
Totally. Just get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Totally.
Exactly. And so have your product, your product lines, where your packaging has changed over time too, right?
Yeah. What's fun about that though, let me say, because Lacey designs all of our packaging, and we've changed it really fast. Like we haven't been around very long, but when you have someone in-house like we can make these changes, and we take all the things that we've learned, and we're just like, oh my gosh, this is how to talk to these people, like to our people. This is what they want. You know, this is what they don't see. Going and getting in front of people and being like, oh, they can't tell that it's gluten-free, or they're always looking at this part of the bag, or whatever it is. Just kind of trying to see how people interact with what we're giving them.
And so with Lacey being able to do that dynamically, I can see how that makes a difference. And have you seen an evolution on your packaging of where it started from where it is?
Oh yeah, it's completely different. It was, you know, craft paper bags with some labels on it to begin with. And then we went to these black bags with like glossy, trying to get this like luxury feel. And actually I graduated from college this year with my bachelor's in graphic design. So when I redid these bags to the ones that we have now, the lighter colored ones, I actually contacted a professor and was like, hey, can you critique this bag for me? And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you changed from this black bag, because it just makes me think it's so heavy and so dense. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy to hear that. That I'm making it a better decision.
That's interesting. I would never, well, I have like zero creativeness inside, so I can't even comment on this, but I never would have connected a color of the bag to how dense or how heavy or it would feel to somebody. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
A whole psychology. Yeah.
And so what do you think some of your biggest wins have been?
Oh, we just won 2021 Veteran Startup of the Year through the Rosie Network, which we're like, oh my gosh, we're a granola company.
You're kidding. So tell me more about that. So what is the classification or the qualifications, and what is the award?
It was a veteran or military spouse, I think, startup. So less than 3 years in business. They had several categories. The Rosie Award or the Rosie Network is for military entrepreneurs. It's a great resource. They do different shows and things. So they had all these different categories, and I put in for this one for us. And I was just like, this is about the team. I'm like, we've built something that's from this to this and just a quick little application. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're a finalist. And then I was like, oh man, do we have to do anything? And there was nothing else. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you won. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like what? It's just been mind blowing. We also did something else. We did this military entrepreneurship challenge, and we were finalists in that. And it was this really big pitch competition. The eligibility requirements, I don't know, but there were businesses we were going up against that were like 10 years old, 12 years old.
Wow.
And it was kind of like, wow, we made it even into this. And we're pretty new.
That's amazing. And so what do you think, what is it about your business, do you think, that caught their eye or that really put you on the top? Do you know?
we tell a lot of people tell us it's the story. I was in a Patriot boot camp, which is a thing. It's a boot camp. I don't even know how to explain it. Basically,
like an accelerator.
Yes, that's what it is. And most of it was like mentor based. And I got to speak to one of the VCs from Google. And he told me, he's like, well, you know, it's like a granola and 2 women veterans, like mental health. He said it doesn't take much to make me feel good to buy your product.
Wow. That's
so I was
really
like,
nice.
okay,
And I think for us too, it was very nice. And for us, like, we're very humble. Like, we have a hard time with even feeling good enough or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's been a process of growth, like trying to become more into our potential, just people. And yeah, so it's so interesting to kind of hear what people think and say and just keep putting it out there. And we don't do it for, like, that's not what we're doing it for. We want to help you become a better person, really.
I think it's that authenticity, you know, like that's what we're showing. We're trying to walk the walk and talk the talk, and it means something different for everyone. So like Megan and I, while we have this, you know, common bond, we still have like different interests. So like what we're putting out there is different, and people, I think that resonates with people. Like I can be myself and still be part of your crew, you know?
I like the authentic word that you use, Lacey, because I think that's really true, because you are being yourselves, doing something that's really important, and you're not changing who you are in order to do that.
100%.
Trying.
And we actually do certain things where we're like, we're going to make sure that we do this so that we're not kind of going in that same conditioning route that we would have done in the past.
Yeah. And so tell me, you mentioned the last time we talked, the entrepreneurial circle in
Alaska.
In Alaska. So tell me, what is that?
It's just a tight-knit community here. It's since it's a small town, like I would say not a lot of people are doing things, but that's all perception, right? So the people that are doing things know the people that are doing things, and everybody kind of helps each other out. Like you're on the forefront of their mind. Oh yeah, I think this person needs one of these or whatever. Very sharing and
supportive.
Yeah, totally.
I think totally. From the outside perspective, it definitely seems to me like they really care about their community, you know, like I remember growing up and my mom would be like talking about the Richies or, you know, the popular people. And what I didn't realize, you know, like as a kid's perspective, like why she's like talking like that. But at the end of the day, it was jealousy. And what I understand now from that community there is that like the Richies or the popular people are the people who make your community run. Like that's why their name is everywhere, because they're the business owners. They're the ones looking out for each other, making that economy grow.
Involved.
Yeah, in every time you say Alaska and small in the same sentence, it makes me laugh because Alaska is so big, but I can understand that small town feel to even Anchorage, right? Even a larger city, because it is so supportive of each other. That's unique. Do you think that being in Alaska has actually helped your business grow more than if you were still in California or doing this in North Carolina?
I Personally, I do think so. I think that we've been able to build a very solid brand and grassroots kind of base here. California, for me, in my head, it would be very cluttered. Like you're trying to fight through the competition. With us in Alaska, like we don't even have granola competition locally. So we're kind of already a step ahead, which is great. And then it's just like, how do we get bigger than Alaska? Like that's kind of been the focus.
Cluttered. That's an interesting analogy. I really like it because I can understand how if you're in an area that allows growth and rather than you're able to be who you are and develop your, like you said, develop your brand versus being in competition from day one with so many people, your brand doesn't have a chance to evolve like it's supposed to. If that makes sense. I'm not a marketer and I don't play one on TV, but that's what I feel.
It's definitely been a lot easier to, cut through the noise, I think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's really fantastic. So what's next? You have lots of space in your warehouse to allow growth, right? Or your factory or wherever.
We're building shelves. We've been building extra shelves. We do have a little bit of space, but it's definitely something that is like in the thought process, like, hey, maybe we're going to need somewhere to distribute or something, or maybe we ship a container down to the lower 48 and distribute. Like there are different challenges as we scale that we will have to face, but we'll face them like when we get there. The next thing we have going on is 2 wholesale shows. We have one here in Alaska that's like for gifts specifically, but we have a really big one coming up. It's the Natural Product Expo West in Anaheim, California in March. And that's going to have like 60,000 attendees, which is projected. And that's with COVID. Like normally they have 90,000 attendees.
Wow.
It's all business to business. This is where Bob's Bread Mill really like was seen for the first time. And I think that we're going to make a big splash there.
Wow. That's exciting. So how do you prep for that?
We talk to a lot of people. We're calling people. We're like, hey, do you know anybody that's been to this show? And then what do you think? What do you deal with? Just gaining knowledge so that we can be as prepared as possible going into it.
And so how much product, what do you produce on a regular basis right now?
That's a good question.
Well, we just switched from like 6-ounce bags to 8-ounce bags. So it's kind of like hard when we say units, it's kind of hard to distinguish right now what the unit is technically. How much granola do we bake,
Yeah, we're baking hundreds of pounds, definitely, of granola. I mean, we're to the point to where we get orders we got a 50-pound order of bulk granola. So not just in bags, like we have these other ways that we sell granola too, to like local businesses that say serve it at their hotel or something.
I can give you a rough estimate.
We think that we can make about 2,500 units a day right now.
So we're making about 1,250 a month right now. We have capacity to grow here.
Wow, that's fantastic.
We have a lot of capacity to grow.
That's fantastic because for lots of small businesses, being able to start to expand your production can be a showstopper.
Yeah, we actually know people that are in the position where they have back orders for weeks, like 5-6 weeks. And I'm just like, I want us to be in a pinch. Let us hire someone else. You know what I mean? Like, I would like it to be more of that flowing machine. It's just about balancing everything out. Yeah.
One of those, be careful what you wish for, because you'll be doing that and go, right? Wow, it was so good when we were.
Totally.
Yeah. And so there's plenty of room for growth, right? And so you're able to do individual bags for personal use or doing bulk for, like you said, for hotels or restaurants or whatever that happens to be. So that really gets you into all kinds of different markets.
Yeah, we've been able to spread throughout Alaska pretty nicely, because like we've even been incorporated into the gelato, like at the gelato place here.
Oh,
so different little partnerships with local businesses. We're on a couple different acai bowls around town. Yeah, it's nice. That's the part where everybody's helping everybody else. You know, we're promoting their local businesses and then they're promoting our local business.
and that supportive community also must help you develop new product too, because you can see how your product interacts with somebody else's product. And so that gives you an extra platform or creative piece to say, gee, I wonder if we did it this way, would it go with this thing?
Totally.
So is it hard getting supplies to you in Alaska? Down here, we're having, there's so many stories about so many supplies that just aren't making it to the store.
I don't actually think that we've had too many issues as a business. Like we haven't ran into that challenge. Maybe waiting for certain things shipping wise to take a little bit longer, but I don't think we've gotten really in a pinch.
The only thing I can think of is our packaging at the beginning of the year. The first time we ordered custom packaging, like having it printed, it did kind of get lost on the way to Alaska. But I think because like we lived in Hawaii, when we were in the military. So being in that island environment is a lot like being in Alaska. You're used to waiting longer for things because it takes longer.
Totally.
Yeah. Correct expectations, I guess, right?
Yeah. So you plan for it,
Okay, yeah. Well, that's good. As long as if it's in the plan and it's not a surprise, then that also helps manage the stress level a little. So the Anaheim show in March, that could be a game changer.
Yeah, I think we're waiting until then to like really decide where we want to target next. Because, we're doing well in Alaska, but we want to be like, the worst fear would be that, a distributor get us and then nobody knows who we are and then we don't sell, like that's just the worst case scenario. But if we could kind of control it a little bit, like we see who was interested in us and be like, okay, we're going to target Oregon or Seattle next or something like that.
Right. Pacific Northwest, easier to get to, and similar, there's a lot of diverse communities, Seattle, Portland, Vancouver.
And then do different things with that too, like put some effort into the marketing in those areas so that we can start building that name so that people see it and associate and give it a try.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So the company, there's so many. What would you need from the community? What would you like to ask for people? What do you think you need?
Oh, I think we need.
Well, we want people to buy our product because we want to increase our capacity. Like that's what we want. Truth be told, that's what we want.
We want people to also choose yourself when it comes to what you're eating. Like add color into your diet. Like that's the easiest way to add nutrients. Yeah.
Yeah. Not color Skittles, but like
yes, not color from Skittles.
Skittles is not nutrient.
Yes. So have a salad. It's kind of like you have to change your whole taste buds. Like you have to change your process. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a diet. It's not just putting in that one hike and then that's it, right? It's continually working towards it and knowing that, it's a marathon. It's not a race. We're not running to something. We're so used to having this instant gratification. So like slow down, take your time, eat the good things.
That's wonderful. And so where do people find your product?
You can find us online at elevatedoats.com, which is super easy. We have a subscription-based program there too. It's our Granola Club. That's where we do our test flavors, where we're coming out with a new flavor every quarter. So right now is lemon berry muffin. Our next flavor we're thinking about is maybe a mango habanero, which I'm really excited about. And so that's right, excited about the creativity part. And you can also find us in locations throughout Alaska, and hopefully like locations wherever you're at. And if you think that there's a location that would fit Elevated Oats, yeah, let us know. Like we would love to try talking to them and getting it out there more.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for part 2. I was really excited when we talked for part 1, and I know that we just there's so much we didn't get to. So part 2, yes.
I would love to add a milestone that I thought of.
Yes, please.
We actually just had our first employee's 1-year anniversary yesterday.
Wow.
Yes, so that was very exciting. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's been a year. That kind of like was like, oh my gosh, it's been so like, I can't believe the time just flies by. Yeah, so very exciting.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks so much for sharing your stories. And I appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking with you both.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Striving, so surviving. I keep on thriving, tight.